You have got to be kidding me.
Oh my God.
$4.56 million. People do a whole lot worse for a whole lot less.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
That's right, Brian. Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. The world of entertainment is turned upside down. We're just trying to figure out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. Where is the good stuff? Brian, what's going on?
I mean, basically, you can only kill the cords and they can only become so dead. And at some point, you're just a weirdo continuing to murder dead cords.
And people are pointing at us saying, Tom, Brian, there's no more cords.
They're like, at some point, the world is like, stop the fight! Stop the fight!
The person doing that is our guest today, Kristi Cates.
I'm fighting everything, all the things. I've fought all the cords and we have conquered them all. It is all good
Welcome back to the show, Kristi. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. Hi, everybody. Hello.
And welcome to the brand new era, Cordkillers Reckoning.
Ooh, very nice. Very fancy. I like it.
So
now we're doing just what we do now that we've won the battle. And now
it's a bit of a dark chapter. This is sort of like I imagine when my daughter starts a new campaign in D&D. It's like, okay, you did it. You took down the bad guy, but ooh, gray skies all around. Where's all the good stuff? What do you do next?
Gone, but what happened to all the shows? What happened to all the things? Brian, we're gonna have to go on a supply run.
Supply run.
That's right, folks. The war is over, and now begins the reckoning. Cordkillers is focused on figuring out where the good stuff is. Yeah. It's not just able to watch what you want, when you want, where you want. It's how to find what you want. We're going to concentrate less on those milestones along the way to cord cutting and more on, okay, what are these over-the-top services giving us? Which ones should we get? For what? Where do we find what we want to watch?
So, where shall we begin, Tom?
Yeah, so how to watch has become very simple. Use a TV and the internet. We'll still talk about some of the interesting hardware and services that come along, but we're focusing more on what than how. I would put it this way, Brian. We won, but at what cost? How do we navigate this new post-apocalyptic landscape?
I mean, I don't want to jump in as dungeon master here, but it's like, you've done it. They're defeated before you, and now you are hungry. Where are the good shows, and how can you find them? Let's find out.
Yeah, and just in time, too, right? The writers reached a tentative deal to end their strike. One assumes the actors' strike won't be far behind. By next episode, we'll know more about the post-strike plans, which is going to make it even more complicated to find out where all the good stuff is to watch. But thankfully, Cordkillers Reckoning will be here to guide you.
Yeah, so this news is too fresh for us to really have a hot take on it, but it does look like they're at least at the beginning of the end of the negotiations and so on. I did a little bit of poking around, gang, and there's a number of stories. One I just want to get out of the way real quick is, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Getty Images has a special version of their generative AI that will pay kind of the way that like YouTube pays for AdSense revenues on it, which I thought was interesting. We'll see how much the AI feeds into the WGA stuff. But the big thing I was curious about for the panel is I took a moment to look back at previous strikes and some of the curious incidents that happened, both in amazing gifts that come after the strike, but also it's like, let me ask this. Would I be right in speculating that we're in for a lean year and a half, yet another lean year and a half after the pandemic as a result of this strike?
I mean, Kristi,
feel
it
like
feels
it.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it. It's weird to me because like SAG-AFTRA were formed in the 1930s, and all of this stuff that's happening with AI has accelerated so fast that it's almost hard to keep up with it. So the strike almost was inevitable, it feels like, because there was no precedent for any of this stuff before. But yeah, I think now, just looking at, I mean, shows like movies and shows like Dune, is like, all that stuff's going to be like way behind where they had it scheduled previously, I think, because of this. Because everything's just kind of a little bit of a puzzle that needs to be put back together at the moment, feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As if there is a reckoning.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, what a news story for the day of our next chapter of this experiment. Tom, here's a trivia question. Oh, you already have the answers. Kristi and Bryce.
Yes.
What do you think the previous record for the longest WGA strike was?
I also have the answer to
Okay,
this.
Kristi, you're the only one playing this trivia game.
Okay, that means I either really win or really lose. I'm going to say like a year and a half.
I believe it was like 5 months, 154
Oh, that's
days.
it?
Is that right? Yeah.
That's still a long time, but yeah,
that
I thought
was
longer.
1988, and then we also had the big strike of 2007. And what I remember from that time is the fallout was Lost became very, very bad for a little while. Heroes became strange and unintelligible, that kind of
Pushing
thing.
Daisies got canceled.
But I was looking for like bright news on the horizon. And one of the things I found out is that it was because of the strike in 2007 that Breaking Bad ended up being as good as it was, because it was originally an 8-episode order that was reduced down to 6 episodes. And originally Jesse Pinkman was supposed to die at the end of the first season, but they didn't get to it. And then after the break, Vince Gilligan was kind of like, Jesse Pinkman, he's pretty cool. Maybe we'll keep him around. Maybe he'll turn into something. Who knows?
So if there hadn't been a strike, they would have killed Pinkman and regretted it, but not been able to do anything about it.
Correct. Some other gifts that I found are, I also found a bunch of weird plays. Like, for example, you guys know what a spec script is, right? Where somebody writes a speculative, who knows if you'll get paid or not. The show Mission Impossible had like had a long time of spec scripts just piled up. And so in the 1988 strike, they're all like, well, screw it. We'll go down. This is during the strike, I believe. They went down to Australia, started shooting a bunch of episodes. Likewise, you have weird examples like the Smothers Brothers, who essentially are doing a vaudeville-style act. And of course, when you're out there performing, you're constantly writing new material. So they were able to bring back the Smothers Brothers after a 20-year hiatus. Like, okay, we could go. Let's go. And then on top of that, of course, there are some of the obvious suspects, like pretty soon we're going to see a whole bunch of reality content. We're going to see a whole bunch of sports content. We're going to see a whole bunch of, I don't know, pro wrestling content and that kind of thing. What else do you guys expect us to see soon?
Well, stuff like, like competition shows are going to continue, like The Voice and America's Got Talent and all that stuff. Because, for that same reason, it doesn't need a script. So probably more of that type of thing. Gosh, I don't know.
Well, and I think we talked about this a week or two ago about ABC picking up a lot more of the Monday Night Football, because
Monday Night Football that's usually just on ESPN is simulcast on ABC more this season because of that. It'll be what happens because of the strikes. If I can pull out a general principle, is the networks and studios are forced to do things they wouldn't normally do, and then therefore find out that some of those things work. And so you get fallout. I've heard a lot of people say that reality shows got as big as they were, even though they existed before the strike, because they relied on and tried more formats and realized which ones worked and which ones didn't better.
So out of everything that I found out poking around, the one that made me the happiest is that there's delayed knock-on effects. We talk about spec scripts. So during the 88 strike, a bunch of people just wrote spec scripts for Star Trek: The Next Generation. And one of the very best episodes of the entire run of the entire series, I hope I haven't already talked about this on the show, but was Darmok. And that one didn't come out for years later, but it was just in the bin, and it was there because of the writer's strike. And if you ain't seen it, it's one of the most iconic Star Trek The Next Generation episodes of all time. It's an entire species that speaks only in memes. They only make references to stories that came before them. So I think that we might be about to ease our way into another golden age of television, but it's going to be, in my estimation, a good 2 or 3, 4 years until we really feel it.
Yeah, it's another year before we were already headed out of the golden age. They were already cutting costs and everything. And now the strike has just kind of gutted a lot of plans, and it's like a forced reboot. It's like a Control-Alt-Delete of the entire industry.
Do you think that more? Do you guys think that more like newer writers are going to get opportunities because of this, or do you think they're going to stay away from it because of the not wanting to, upset the balance type of thing? Or do you think it's going to be opening doors for
on the
some
agreement? We still haven't seen the details that are in the agreement. They haven't made that public. So I think I wouldn't want to answer that question without seeing what that agreement looks like, because it could keep newer writers out or it could encourage them. It just depends on the details.
I mean, to be honest, these are the real questions, Kristi, and I think we'll know more 1 week from today, but this news broke this morning, so we just don't have many answers. But I would like to believe that a shakeup like this is an opportunity to bring in new talent. But one of the things that the WGA was upset about was smaller writers' rooms with less connected people doing more speculative, shorter form series instead of, a standard 20 plus episodes of a season of something, instead doing 6 to 8 episodes.
It was about like the size of those writers' rooms and how long each tier of writer would be hired by a show. How
long they keep them around to work on stuff. Like Netflix loves to, stock up on the writing, get it all done fast, so they don't have to pay as much.
Well, on top of that, Tom, this news comes out today on the same day that OpenAI is announcing that now you can talk to ChatGPT and so on. I don't know. I want to hear you speculate wildly about where this is headed.
Because I have the unpopular opinion, which is I think AI has been a red herring through the strike. I think the real issues are about reporting statistics, royalties on streaming, and writer room size, particularly royalties on streaming. Because the last one was about internet video at all. A lot of times it's described as being about webisodes, but it was basically about internet video and DVD sales. It's always about, there's a new source of revenue for the studios that wasn't covered in the previous agreement, and we need to fight about how we split up that revenue with the unions. So I think the stuff about AI was good fodder for the press, good way to get people riled up on the picket lines, and they'll come up with some rather reasonable guidelines, I'm sure, about you can use AI for this, but if you do that, you need to consult the union, and you can't cut people's jobs out to do this for this amount of time. I just don't think that has had much to do with it in reality. I think that's a red herring.
I think AI is too it's still too, as far as writing goes, it's still too lacking in actual personality. A lot of stuff I've seen be cranked out by an AI generator for a storyline type of thing. It's very there's no soul to it. I think that's going to be more of concern to the SAG-AFTRA side of the whole thing, the AI part, as opposed to the writer side. I think that there's going to be higher concerns on the actor side than the writer side for that.
I also think writers will want to use these tools.
To some degree, yeah.
Because they'll realize, it can't replace me, but it can help me. It can speed up my work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is my only gentle nudge back to you guys is in the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, there was some story about business students at a college, and they were all asked in a kind of a writer's room, come up with commercially viable ideas. And then they had a robot do the same thing. Robot eked them out and ended up coming up with more viable ideas that by another again, double-blinded group, they're like, these are better ideas. So I'm
But who prompted the robot?
That's a good I believe both parties received the exact same prompt, but now I've wandered too far afield here. But
because I look at that and I think like, yes, and it can do that for the writers as well, and then they will hone that idea and make it even better. So it just gives them a leg up. It doesn't. I don't think it's going to replace so much as assist.
Well, plus the robot, anything robotic, anything AI is going to come up with more ideas just by nature because they have more to draw upon. An individual has their individual experience as a single person. Even if you're in a room with people bouncing ideas around, the AI has more to draw from overall. So it's just going to, by law of averages, come up with more ideas, I would think. Yeah. Whether they're good or not is a question,
There's going to be a lot of anecdotal stories like that where, and some of them may or may not even be true. But there's going to be a lot of stories of like, well, in this one case, we did this one thing and it seems like people could replace. I feel like there's going to be many fewer stories of this entire wing of people was gotten rid of and replaced by just an AI. And that's all that's there, because there are things that the AI can do better than the humans, which frees the humans to then improve on what the AI did, which is usually how technology goes. We didn't get rid of all the accountants. We let Lotus 1, 2, 3 and everything assist the accountants to make them better at their jobs so they could spend times on things they didn't have time to spend on before.
Well, let's make this promise. 1 week from today, we will know more about this story. And on top of that, per my proclamation that we are headed towards a famine, let's have a bunch of suggestions of things that you probably didn't know that you need to get caught up on so that you can feast on excellent content while you're waiting for everything to come back.
Absolutely. Now, I'm getting old enough where I imagine that I said things in the past that I didn't, Brian, but I'm pretty sure that if you were supporting the show and listening to it back in May when these strikes began, you heard me say these will end in September, because I said there's no harm to running them through the summer. They're in reruns anyway. They can stack up reality shows and sports to survive. But once the pressure begins in the autumn, they're going to want to settle. And that's exactly what happened.
I will say that this ended a little bit faster than I expected it to. It didn't. I'm
the second longest strike.
Yes. I thought this was going to be the longest in all of history. That was my pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely was wrong. I said they weren't even going to strike.
I was kind of on your side before the strike. I'll be honest, but once they did, I was like, September. They're gonna coast this thing through the summer to try to build up the pressure, and then they'll come to an agreement in September, and that's what happened. And if I'm not misremembering it, that's the kind of analysis you need to support as an independent outlet. Patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah, dude, keep us loud, live, and independent, man. We've been doing this for a hot minute. We've been doing this so long, we've had to reinvent the show for a third time. Right? You think that's free? We have an entire writing room. There's a whole guild of people behind us. They're on strike right now, and they're not working. We have to make this happen, and the only way it can happen is just give us $1.63 per episode. I believe that's what.
That's pretty close to what I spent on lunch at the cafeteria in 1986. So
I was about to say, like not
us.
today, unless I don't know what you ate if it was today.
Tom's on a newspaper diet.
Yeah, that was school lunch. That was the school lunch fee in 1986. So you should be able to support us for a school lunch fee from 1986 at patreon.com/Cordkillers. And now we begin the search party. Folks, we are on the hunt for good content, and some of it's coming to Max. Max will launch a live sports add-on October 5th under the Bleacher Report brand. So Bleacher Report is going to be your sports add-on for Max. You'll get it at no additional charge temporarily until February 29th. That's a real date in next year's leap year. After that, you will have to pay $10 a month to include it. And it will not only include the studio shows, all the stuff from TNT and TBS, like Inside the NBA, The Bleacher Report add-on will also have live games. So NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, men's college basketball, cycling races, soccer, any live game that is on cable or broadcast through Warner Brothers Discovery's properties will be included in Max. Brian, what do you think of Max making sports an add-on rather than included in the base price?
I think it's brilliant. I think they should do it. I think they're going to keep a lot more money. I think that for over a decade, we've been talking about how secretly everybody has had to subsidize sports, whether you watch it or not. And that's what fueled the whole cable industry. I think that, yes, they don't get to force everybody to have sports all the time, but I think they know that they can't force everybody to have sports, whether they like them or not. What about you, Kristi?
I watch zero sports, but I think that's great for people who watch sports.
See, it's perfect.
Maybe they'll have the Olympics on it, and then I can watch it.
Yeah, you're like, you don't feel like you're paying for something you don't want.
Exactly.
And especially something that's expensive. And then when March Madness comes next year, a bunch of people are going to be like, yeah, fine, I'll pay the $10. I got to see my basketball.
And then, of course, they'll remember to unsubscribe, right?
Well, this is not going to be $10 a month. The best version of this is not $10 a month. This is going to be $30, $40 a month when we get to the full size.
Actually, no. That's a really good discussion topic. Do you think that they're going to actually charge what it's worth, which you're right, because if you're in for March Madness, you're going to spend $40, $50, $60, $70, you don't care.
Yeah.
Or are they going to try to slide it in and just be all like, I don't know, do you like sports? How about $9.99? And then it's like, whoops, did all of you continue to pay it month after month forever and ever and ever and ever? Weird.
I think it's $10 a month. I think that's what it costs, because Warner Brothers doesn't carry the full load that ESPN does, and ESPN you figure is probably 15 to 30. You've probably got some of the price of this built into the cost of Max, whether you want it or not, and the fact that you don't involve anybody else, you're not involving a cable company, means that I think you keep a little bit of savings. So I will agree, Bryce, that they're going to raise the price of it. So maybe I should backtrack and say it's not 10. I don't think it's 30 or 40. I think it might be more like 15, maybe 20.
Kristi, how do you grift people?
How do you grift people?
Yeah. How do you carve off the most meat off this carcass?
I really think that their thing is just going to be that people are going to forget to shut it off. Like they're going to say, "Oh, I'm only going to watch this one, series of sports events," and then just completely forget to shut. You're going to forget. You forget all the time anyway.
This guest cables.
Well, here's another way to get more money out of you without raising the price. Add advertisements to your existing subscription. Amazon Prime Video is going to put ads in its service starting in early 2024. So Prime Video subscribers in Canada, Germany, the UK, and the US will see limited advertisements. And then Australia, France, Italy, Mexico, and Spain will get them later in the year. In the United States, if you don't want the ads, you'll be able to pay $3 a month extra to get rid of them. No prices were announced yet for the other regions, but one assumes it's going to be somewhere close to around the equivalent of $3 US. Variety says the company plans to run fewer ads than broadcast TV or other streamers, and estimates that the lowest ad load right now is about 4 minutes per hour. So expect around 4 minutes per hour of ads on Amazon Prime Video. And it's tricky because Prime Video comes as part, for most people, you can pay for it on its own, but for most people, it comes as a thing that you get along with your free shipping. So it's an apples and oranges comparison to other streamers this way, Brian.
Kristi, are you thinking more about how unfair it is that the shipping service is no longer going to give you a free television channel? Or are you thinking about how fast you want to throw $3 at this problem?
I am thinking that Amazon Prime, which includes Prime Video and other stuff, was $119 in 2022. And that went up $20 to $139. And I thought, that's kind of a lot. And I thought, well, but I mean, the shipping and all the other benefits, et cetera, I'll put up with it. Now they want $2.99 more per month to keep ads out of my shows. And I'll admit I'm probably going to do it, but I'm not super happy about it. I really think that as a standalone service, maybe that price increase would be tolerable, but on top of the large amount we're already paying yearly, I'm not a fan of this. I don't like it. But I also really don't like ads in movies, so I'll probably do it. I hate to admit it, but
It's a complex psychological thing, right?
Yeah.
Because in one way, logically, it should be like, well, I never asked for this. I was paying for free shipping, and they threw this in for free. So, okay, I guess it's fair for them to do whatever they want with it. If there had been ads in it from the beginning, no one would care if they added an option to say, hey, I know you all haven't liked the ads over the years. What if we let you get rid of them? Everybody be happy. It's the psychological thing of, I got dependent on this service, and you're not only changing it, but you're changing it in a way that is complicated for me to address. Because if I, as Mr. McCranky in our chat room says, I'm going to cancel Prime Video, well, unless I'm only paying for Prime Video and not Amazon Prime shipping, I'm canceling music, shipping, my Twitch subscriptions, like all the things that are in there, which of course is the insidious reason that Amazon includes all of those things. But it also makes you angrier in a way that it's like not clear cut, and they've changed it.
this feels icky to me because it feels like Tom was saying, you got these things as essentially bonuses of paying for the free shipping, which is understandable and fine. But now we've been used to it for like a number of years, right? So to make us pay for the extra, it almost feels like this comes across to me, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know Amazon's financials. This comes across to me like Amazon is slipping a little bit, and they're going to put the onus on the consumer to make up the little, the money that they need to be earning back from X amount of things. It just feels like they're kind of, I don't know. It feels like a lot of the situations where, as a live streamer, which is, what we all are, is having to run ads on your stream. It's similar to that, in that, well, we're just going to put this on the consumer to cover this cost, even though we were giving it to you for free before. I think it's the taking away of it that makes it worse than if it had just been an add-on of something that we're getting rid of that was already there. If we were used to ads in the beginning, like Tom said, and then it's like, oh, well, if we do like to get rid of these ads, now it's this much. But now it's the removal of the service that is upsetting, I think, more than anything else. Yeah, it feels strange to me.
I think you're close to the most upsetting part, but the most upsetting part is that September 25th, 2023 was the day that I found out that Amazon Prime was no longer $70.
What?
You just noticed that?
Yeah, it's double that, man.
I found out when Kristi Cates just told me just now.
Yeah, it's been raised multiple times over like the past 7 years.
Oh, no. I mean, I know, whatever, supply, demand, up, down, whatever. But now that does sound like a lot. It sounds like I'm paying for cable again. And maybe we need to retitle the episode already.
But it's not even a comparison, though, because cable didn't give you free shipping and music and photo storage. And like the list of what's included in Amazon Prime just goes on and on and on.
Hopefully my point translates, which is they've done a very good job of creating a value proposition that is so subtle and so integrated into your life that why would you ever go and check when they're raising it? And I do agree, because these are now cable television prices. And for the first time, I actually have to think to myself, how much do I care about?
It's $14.99 a month. It's still lower than cable television. To be fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wait, with the add-on, even with the added $2.99?
Well, with the $2.99, it becomes $17.
Oh, that's right. No, that was per year. Oh my God, I'm going to go back to sleep for another few years. Wake me up when it's that much per month.
You were thinking that was
Are you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah.
We all know now that Brian's going to be the person who leaves his Max Sports subscription on and forgets about it.
Will be.
I'm just saying, I am upset about this. And I also know that if Amazon Prime Video always had ads, I would be happy about this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
It's the exact same thing.
Amazon also has Freevee, which is their fast channel, which means that they don't have a reason to make a fast version of Prime. And so this is inelegant, but I think it's probably smart to just say, we're going to throw ads on your video, and if you aren't even watching it, you'll never notice. And if you care, you can pay a little bit. It could have been worse of now, instead of what, $15 a month, $17 a month. Amazon Prime Video ad-free. Like, you're never going to get people to do that. Like, that's totally the wrong way. You've got to do it the other way. So that makes sense to me about what they're doing with this Prime Video audience.
And again, for $14.99 a month, you're getting all this other stuff. If you were just wanting Prime Video, that's $8.99 a month, which then becomes $11.99 a month ad-free.
I mean, and as all the streaming services increase their prices, which they are doing one at a time, one right after the other.
Yeah, everything.
Maybe with all the extras, it's not as bad as we're perceiving it to be.
But
it just seems like a jab the way they did. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the way they did it.
I think it's because you can't. For me anyway, it's like Disney Plus was like, we're going to put ads on your stream. If you want it without ads, pay extra. I was like, okay, so you're just raising the price of my service.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're saying, if I don't want to pay the increased price, I have the option of watching ads. I don't love it, but that made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's really what Amazon's doing, but somehow because it's bundled in with all this other stuff that gives me less flexibility, makes me angrier. Also, I think fewer people are going to cancel because it's bundled in with all that other stuff. So there's going to be more grumbling, but less subscriber decline.
So let's talk about the freeview side of things. Like, we're watching Miami Vice now, and we all got a little bit ruffled by the fact that for a brief moment, Miami Vice was only available, like, we had to start paying for every episode, $2.99 to see an HD or whatever. But now they have an option where it's like, watch it right now, free with ads. And I'm like, I think what am I actually going to buy this episode? No, come on, get out of here.
No.
But then I have an inferior experience watching Miami Vice.
And yet I almost never remember. I never think, oh, I'm sitting down to watch ads again. I'm always like, oh, I'm sitting down to watch Miami Vice. And then the ads play and like, all right, I need to look away for a minute.
Do you guys ever perceive this? Like, for me, like watching an older show or like especially like an old sitcom or something, or like the show Brian just said, with ads seems less bothersome to me than watching like a newer movie or a newer show with ads. That annoys me more. I don't know why.
Well, I think the context is because we're trying to, it's a little bit like a book reading club, like we're really trying to, give the benefit of the doubt to the story that they're trying to tell. And boy, do the ads really mess that up for my experience.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, the good news is there's a new trailer for Amazon's third season of Upload coming to Prime Video October 20th, well before the ads.
I was about to say, isn't that the show where in the afterlife you see a bunch of ads?
Yes, it is. In fact, that show.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah. Adult Swim released a trailer for season 7 of Rick and Morty. This is our first best listen to the new voices for Rick and Morty. Remember, Justin Roiland no longer participating in Rick and Morty, so they have replaced him with sound-alike actors. Adult Swim still hasn't named who those replacement voices are, but they say they will after the season begins, which is October 15th.
Kristi,
Yes.
We know that on one Justin Roiland show, Solar Opposites, they did the very simple thing of zapping the throat of a protagonist with the laser that changed his voice to be awesome and British. I am of the opinion that Rick and Morty is a big enough franchise that I perceive this as a smart and savvy play. In the vein of like, yes, the character Kermit was voiced by Jim Henson, but not forever, right? I mean, the character is Kermit, and I feel like they're trying to go for that kind of play. How did all this land for you watching this trailer?
I don't really watch the show very often, but I think that the vehicle of using like a story plot line to change the voices is a lot smarter than just like arbitrarily changing the voices. So I think that was a really good decision on their part, actually. Yeah. Good way to do it.
Well, I thought they did a pretty good job on the sound-alikes.
I thought Rick, and I don't know, this could be just because I know it's different. I thought Rick sounded a little different. Sounded close, but he sounded a little different. Morty wasn't in the trailer as much, but what was in there sounded fine to me.
Did y'all catch the Jerry walking in saying to Rick, hey, I have a bit of a rake situation. And then Rick saying, a rake situation? Or a rake problem. That's what it was.
Okay. Yes. Yes, indeed. How very Dan Harmon to subtly address the situation within the series. In fact, the press release even said Rick and Morty are back and sound more like themselves than ever. The BBC released a new trailer for the Doctor Who specials. There are 3 of them coming this fall, starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate, reprising their roles from earlier in the series. At the end of this 3-episode 60th anniversary series, which is on Disney Plus, by the way, outside of the UK and Ireland, Ncuti Gatwa will take over the role of the Doctor. We see a brief flash of him in this trailer, and that new series will begin next year. Kristi, I saw you clapping already while I was talking about this. You're excited, huh?
Yes, Doctor. So David Tennant and Matt Smith are kind of tied for my favorite Doctor. And I actually coincidentally watched this trailer yesterday before I knew we were going to be talking about it. And it looks fantastic. Like it brings back the old school feel of that particular like era of Doctor Who. And it looks really great to me. And then Ncuti Gatwa is a really interesting choice for the next Doctor. I'm excited to see him on this show. I think it looks really cool.
I am excited as well. And I'm excited to see how they explain why David Tennant why the Doctor regenerated into a form that looks like one of his previous forms, the form played by David Tennant. And we all know it's because Russell T Davies is back and he wants to kind of reboot the series in his own way, because he was the one in charge during Eccleston and Tennant's run. But yeah, I'm assuming there'll be a good in-universe explanation in this. For those who don't know, the Catherine Tate character, Donna Noble, was left when last we saw her unable to remember her previous life with the Doctor, or she would die. So how do you bring her back without killing her? It'll be an interesting thing too.
Have they ever done it before where I don't recollect if they have or not, brought a Doctor back like that from, usually when a Doctor, morphs to the next Doctor, that's it. I don't recall them bringing one back that extensively.
In the latter half of the 80s, there was a very famous episode where they brought all of the Doctors back.
But they didn't regenerate into an older form.
Yeah.
They crossed their timelines.
Right.
So yeah, there've been a couple of specials like that. But never have they regenerated the Doctor and have it look like a previous
That's
version.
So cool. Should be interesting. And Neil Patrick Harris is going to be in as well, as Scooper Nova Girl said. He looks like he's the villain in this particular trilogy.
He's definitely a villain. Whether he's the master or something else, that is hard to tell. Yeah. Puck sources say that Greg Daniels is helping develop a reboot of the U.S. version of The Office. Daniels was, of course, the person who helmed the first U.S. version of The Office. Daniels had said previously he would set a reboot in the same universe as the previous Office, but not necessarily with the same characters. There's no info on whether that's what he's doing in this case, but maybe it is, since he's talked about that before. John Krasinski and Mindy Kaling have both said they'd be open to reprising their roles. Again, we don't know that they're coming back to this, but they have said in the past that they'd be open to it. So, Brian, I don't know. I
don't want to start rampant speculation, but I think I can officially announce, Tom, I'm open to reprising my role as somebody who would watch The Office.
Yeah. Kristi, are you open to reprising your role as a fan of The Office?
I think I could go back and watch more if they paid me enough. Yeah. Yep. And I need a stapler though. I need a red stapler. Then I'll go back.
Hard to catch lightning in a bottle, right?
Yes.
And it is not guaranteed that even with Greg Daniels aboard that it would be as good. I do think it would be fun to have an entirely new cast, but it's another branch of Dunder Mifflin, or it's a company that acquired Dunder Mifflin or something, and there's some of that DNA, and maybe John Krasinski, if you could get him, though he's a movie star now, right? But maybe he's running that office, or he's a consultant that skips by every so often.
I was just going to say that, like a brand new office, but someone from the old cast, or maybe one or two people from the old cast, come over to like establish the new office or something, and that's the like flow from the old series to the new one. That would be really cool. They work
high up in corporate.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, Tom, the more you describe it, the less interested I got, because I'm like,
really?
Oh, is this just a nostalgia play? Is that all this is? Is this fanfic?
Well, no, I guess I didn't describe it well, because what I was saying was have an entirely new office,
right?
Possibly a new company, but you use a couple of those other cast members to make a distant connection so that they're not in it every day even. But like Kristi said, maybe in the first episode, maybe the recurring characters like Jan was that show up every once in a while.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, I'm out of the business of saying no matter how bad the setup is, good stuff is good stuff, and if it's good stuff, really it'll be good stuff,
right? Yeah. If you make a good show, that'll overcome all the other stuff. Speaking of making a good show, if you watch the Super Bowl not for the game or the ads, if you're the person who watches for the halftime show, well, it's going to be Usher this year. How do we feel about Usher being a halftime show?
Usher.
Don't need no Usher. Remind me.
I'm supposed to just shout, yeah, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. You could say I don't care. That would be what I would expect you to say, Brian.
Yeah.
Kristi, do you watch the halftime show of the Super Bowl? I'm curious.
I mean, it depends on who it is. I enjoyed The Weeknd in 2021. I enjoyed Coldplay, and it was 2019 or something. I don't know. But they seem to pick such kind of like mainstream performers most of the time that I'm already kind of like, I kind of wish they'd make a more eclectic selection, or maybe like 4 bands that are kind of like a little bit more under the radar and let them each play like part of the set or something. That it just seems very rote to me every time. So
yeah.
Unless it's a performer I already really like, which The Weeknd and Coldplay, I like both of them. I don't usually watch it because I just like, And
let them get experimental and sassy. Like maybe
exactly.
just rip off part of their bodice at some point.
It's not quite what I meant, but sure.
Okay.
All right, folks. We are always on the hunt on this show for new things to watch. So as part of our search party, we like to reveal if we have found any buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Kristi Cates, have you been watching any buried treasure? Any cool things?
I have to point out really quickly before I talk about that, like kudos to the new bumpers. Very entertaining. Very nice.
It's so jaunty. I love him.
Very nice. I've been watching, actually kind of just alternating these two. I've been rewatching Loki to prep for Loki season 2. And then I've been watching this show called World on Fire on PBS in advance of their season 2, which is coming up October 15th, and I think Loki is October 5th. World on Fire is really good. It's a PBS series. It's a World War II series, and there's a lot of like subterfuge and spy stuff and following the resistance around, and it's just really well written and well acted, and I like it. I'm waiting for season 2 of that. And then of course Loki, I mean, like I think a lot of us are already fans of that series. So
yeah, Loki makes sense because you want to refresh, like, where did we leave off?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Complex.
I'm interested in World on Fire. That sounds interesting to me.
You might like that, Tom, actually. Yeah, you might enjoy it. It's really good.
Brian, any buried treasure?
I got an old thing and a new thing.
Unburied.
The old thing was I forced my daughters to watch the Hudsucker Proxy, the Coen brothers' brilliant film that apparently deeply imprinted on me. It was the first movie I saw on the very first date with my now wife of 25 plus years. It's great. Now I understand why I bought a Vestaboard flap display. I understand why I bought a property with a bus that looks like it belongs from that era. It's great. It's just note for note, excellent storytelling, dead simple. Everything's golden ratio. You can tell that the entire, like, you spend 2/3 of the movie not realizing they used a muted color palette, and then they introduce I won't say what children's toy it is, but, for kids. And then suddenly it's the brightest, most colorful moment in the entire thing. It's a delight and a joy. But the new thing is my kids, in exchange, were like, yeah, Dad, you're going to have to watch Fiona and Cake. And if you remember Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake was the fan fiction written by the Ice Wizard King, the Ice King. I don't want to even say what the show's actually about, but it was mind-blowing to me how it began and what it turns into. Have we already talked about the conceit of it yet?
No.
Okay. Then we will save that for a brief discussion in our after talk segment.
Okay.
But
very good. Very good.
Starts,
but it's in universe of Adventure Time as the stories. Oh, okay. Intriguing.
Tom,
Intriguing.
you know,
Can't
one of
even
my
answer that.
favorite
I like it.
things. One of my
Even
favorite
better.
things is something that pretends to be one thing,
Yep,
but is secretly
yep.
something else.
Is
Yeah.
it an official spinoff or is it like is it still fan type thing? Not saying.
Wow.
It is a show
Can't
on
even answer
Max.
that
You
one.
can watch it on Max. It is actually
Stealthy.
Yeah.
presumably
Huh.
officially released.
It is.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, the last episode comes out in 3 days, and I intend to be all the way caught up by the time we get to the end. I cannot wait to talk to you in After Talk about it.
Now that you've watched Hudsucker Proxy, the first movie date I went on with Eileen was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I haven't seen it probably maybe once since then.
I think I've only seen Hudsucker Proxy one other time. Except, like, this is my third time.
Really? You talk about this movie a lot.
I know. It made a deep impression, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's Tim Robbins, right?
Yep. And also, oh, doggone it. What's
Another guy.
the blue-eyed guy? He ate a lot of
me.
eggs.
Paul Newman?
Yes.
Paul Newman?
Doc
that guy.
Hudson.
He ate a lot of eggs. What about-
That's all, what we have here is not a failure to communicate. That worked. So well done. All right. I want to check in on a couple of buried treasures. What We Do in the Shadows, a triumph of a season. We caught up by finishing the last 3 episodes this week and loved it. Loved it. This for me, best season since season 1. Just funny episodes, good conceits. So I want to say praises about What We Do in the Shadows.
It's
and then
really
I want to
good.
say it is nothing compared to Star Trek Lower Decks.
Wait, really?
As soon as I'm done with an episode of Star Trek Lower Decks this season, I miss it. And I want the next episode immediately. It's so good.
Oh, that's wonderful. Because we talked about, like, I'm watching, like Lower Decks is the only Star Trek my youngest knows about. It's the my 10-year-old is like, yeah, that's what Star Trek is, right? And then I'm like, kind of, That's
We got
awesome.
a brief look at Orion Lower Decks in the most recent episode.
Oh, yeah, because they have a complicated backstory, don't they?
Uh-huh. And then and it's a Tendi episode.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, What We Do in the Shadows. If you didn't catch up on the most recent season, do so. And Star Trek Lower Decks is underway. So you can get those new episodes every week once you catch up. Bryce, any treasure we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, we got a pick from Graham. Graham writes, in the fine tradition of offbeat Canadian comedies, I'm submitting a little-known gem from 2008 called Less Than Kind. It's worth a look if you're into coming-of-age stories without too much saccharin. Billed as a comedy drama, it tells the story of Sheldon Bletcher, a teen growing up in an eccentric Jewish family in Winnipeg. While it never quite got the mainstream recognition it deserved, the award-winning show ran for 4 seasons and features a few actors you might recognize even if you don't know their names. Rather than pointing you to the trailer, I would say just watch the first 3 minutes or so of the first episode. That should tell you all you need to know. I'll tell you what, I watched the first minute and a half. He's right. Graham's right. P.S.
Did you stop at a minute and a half, though?
What was it? The opening credits started playing, and I got it. This is the time for me to go.
It's too good.
Gotcha,
It was,
gotcha.
So Graham also writes, season 1 can be enjoyed staying alone, but 1 and 2 represent a complete story arc. Tonally, seasons 3 and 4 are different, but the shift is natural and necessary. Graham lets us know that you can find it on Tubi in the US and Canada, and outside of North America, you might have a good look finding it on YouTube. That's called Less Than Kind. It is on Tubi in the US, and it may also be on Freevee if you're looking for it. There are 4 seasons of it. If you've got something we should be some buried treasure we should be on the lookout for, please email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Nailed it. I got it. Smooth.
Nailed it. Well, folks, there's another reckoning. We need to thank Doghouse Systems.
Heck yeah, man. I hope there's never a reckoning. I hope they continue to allow us to use all of their computers without ever asking whether or not we caused them to be profitable.
This is not the sales pitch that they want to hear from us.
Head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue, Spoilerin, ROGUE. You need a computer. You know it. Everybody's been talking all over town about it. Just use promo code
They've been
ROGUE.
talking?
And check out. Oh, yeah. Everybody's talking. Yeah.
I love it. The best part about this is before the show, Brian said, when we get to Doghouse, I just want to do a quick thank you.
Anything else, Bryce?
You know what? I'm sorry. I can't hear you. I'm busy scanning the horizon.
Oh, I wasn't ready for it. Here we go.
Send a scanning to avoid.
Scanning the horizon!
Real life Succession seems to have ended differently than the HBO show. Rupert Murdoch announced he is stepping down as chairman of both News Corp and of Fox, and he's still alive, unlike Logan Roy. His son his son Lachlan Murdoch will take over. Rupert Murdoch will become chairman emeritus and will continue to be involved in the contest of ideas. Lachlan Murdoch even said his father, quote, will continue to provide valued counsel to both companies.
Meanwhile, Amazon has launched an immersive website to go with Gen V, its spinoff of The Boys. Not only can you make a virtual tour of the campus, but you can also visit its campus shop, and you can actually buy the stuff in the store through Amazon. Who would have thought? You could try it out at Godolphin University. I swear I was about to read that. Good old K in university.com.
God, all kin university? New Fire TV 4K sticks with Wi-Fi 6 are available now for $50. Amazon had a big announcement last week. Fire TV Max streaming stick has Wi-Fi 6E, Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Atmos audio for $60. And a $120 Fire TV soundbar that works with Fire TV devices without setup. So if you have a Fire TV device, it just sees it and sets itself up. That's available for $120. All Fire TVs and Echo shows also get ambient art, which can alter with voice commands using some generative AI. So just like cool looking stuff, and you're like, hey, put a dog in there and it'll do it or something.
I'm kind of intrigued by that. It sounds like kind of like a lower cost version of the Samsung, the frame.
Oh, the frame.
Really super expensive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat. Might be cool.
Broadcasting cable bounced back to bring back their combined total above 50% of for the time being. That's of the market, but year-on-year broadcast is down 5.5%. Cable is down 10.6%. Streaming is still the largest share of TV viewing at 38.3% of streamers. Peacock has the biggest share at 8.3%. YouTube is still number one with 9.1% of viewing, followed by Netflix at 8.2%.
And Apple had their big announcement as well with the release of iOS 17 for the Apple iPhone and tvOS 17 for the Apple TV last week. You can now reset an Apple TV 4K from your iPhone. Now, you may never have needed to fully reset an Apple TV. Usually a reboot was all you needed. But with older Apple TVs, if you really needed to reset it, hard reset, you had to plug it into a laptop by USB. But the Apple TV 4K didn't have that port. So now you can just hold the phone near the Apple TV and it will wirelessly reset the software. Most people will never have to do this, but if you do, now you can.
That's actually a very humble feature that I think is quite good, is to acknowledge, like, sometimes you got to do a hard reset on a thing.
Yeah. And for a while, you would have had to take it to an Apple store to do a hard reset.
Oh.
I would just unplug it. Unplug it. That's good enough.
If you unplug it and plug it back in and it works, then you didn't need to do a hard reset.
Okay. Yeah. Then there you go.
This is when unplugging it and plugging it back in doesn't work.
To be honest, this is reminiscent of the newish feature on Windows, where it's like, do you just want to press one button and pretend like you just wiped the entire hard drive and then reinstall everything? Great. Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Folks, we are in this post-apocalyptic reckoning, looking for the best stuff out there while the streams are hoarding it. So we have to consult you. Let's see, what's the chatter? Mail. Thomas writes, hello, the artists formerly known as Cordkillers. On last week's show, Tom asked whether Aquaman 2 was the end of the old DC regime before James Gunn's slate takes over. There's been a fair amount of confusion from across the internet in general on this, so I wanted to take the time to clarify things as I understand it. Thank you so much, Thomas. While Aquaman 2 is the end of the DC expanded universe, the DCEU, the old shared universe, it is not the last thing produced under the old regime. As far as we know, that is the Penguin series on Max, which is a spin-off of Matt Reeves' The Batman, and, strike permitting, will launch in early 2024. After that, James Gunn's name should start showing up on DC productions, both canon and non-canon. In late 2024, his first Elseworlds non-canon film, Joker Folie à Deux, debuts in theaters, and the first DCU, the new shared universe series, Creature Commandos, debuts on Max. Finally, the big moment we're all anticipating, the first DCU movie, Superman Legacy, debuts in 2025. That is written and directed by Gunn, as well as produced by him. And we're also allegedly getting The Batman Part 2 that year, but I personally have my doubts about it making that date. I'm oversimplifying the slate a little bit because there are other smaller projects in the works between now and then, like Superman and Lois, Harley Quinn universe, Cape Crusader, etc. But those are the tentpoles as it stands now. Sorry for the long email, but it turns out major Hollywood transitions are complicated. Who knew?
The best writers in the business aren't on strike. They're writing us at cordkillers@gmail.com right here. Kristi Cates, what do you have going on?
I'm streaming on twitch.tv/Kristi Cates Monday, Friday, Saturday is usually live music Monday, Saturday, and then Fridays we've been mixing it up. We've been doing like all kinds of other events, gaming events and IRL stuff and nonsense. So yeah, please come hang out there. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Mostly live music stuff. So yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for being with us during the reckoning. And we will do our best to guide you through this landscape, right, Brian?
Oh, look, it may look from the outside world thin and grim. Maybe Brian even describes it as a post-apocalyptic nightmare, but I saw those bumpers today, and Bryce, there was a lot of joy in those bumpers.
Those bumpers are so good.
I felt so bad about them, too. We'll talk about them in After Talk, too.
They're just going to get better.
Yeah,
what I hear,
that's
Bryce.
right.
Yeah. Well, folks, Cordkillers Reckoning email is still cordkillers@gmail.com. The website is still cordkillers.com. And of course, we are still live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll reckon with you next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money
and love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.